Greetings, folks. I'm Wrongways Gamgee, and welcome to Quick and Dirty Roleplaying. In this video, I and a friend of mine, Brian, will react to this video from Family Tabletop called How Video Games Are Ruining Tabletop RPGs. Brian, if you want
to... Yeah. Hi, my name is Brian. I've been friends and I've been playing games with Ronwise for a very long time. And I'm glad to be here. And I'm hoping to get into this video.
Right. Well, hope no longer because you're in it. Okay.
I'm in it.
Okay. So yeah, we're basically going to play it until either one of us has something to say.
Sure.
Pause, talk, and then continue all the way to the end. All right. Let's get started.
I think there's a lot of things that are copying video games right now, and sometimes that's good, okay? Because video games do very interesting things with storylines that movies have barely touched on. Television shows try to get at. Video games have.
Can we stop right here?
Go ahead.
No, I think the biggest reason why that is because games have much more time to tell their story than either movies or TV shows.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
And also
maybe less with the TV shows, because like obviously like if you have like a show that like has like a 40-minute runtime per episode and they have like 10-12 episodes per season, that's pretty like extensive. Like I guess like there aren't many games that can like have like the same amount of content, but like obviously it's also different that video games are more interactive.
Yeah, that's
definitely a thing. Yeah.
That's the main crux of the issue.
Yeah.
Because you could have video games that they may as well be TV shows, like
right,
like the David Gage video games.
What was it?
It was like Detroit Being Human. Beyond Two Souls.
Right. Do you know the comic book Fables?
The name rings a bell.
It's like basically like fairy tales, but like they're like stuck in like New York, in sort of like modern New York. And the big bad wolf is like is like a private eye who's trying to like redeem himself after like being a villain. And I think like the other main character is literally Snow White, and they have there's a what's it called they have like a video game that's basically it's more like a video novel called The Wolf Among Us, which is about the big bad wolf. And yeah, in that case it literally is a story.
Yeah.
At points where you press buttons to like to fight back or whatever.
Yeah, it's a genre called Telltale Games, also named after.
Yeah, I think it's made by them. Yeah. I think it's made by them. Yeah.
Okay. Continuing on.
Sure.
To tell stories in such an interesting way that it makes sense to me that a lot of industries are going, wait, what are video games doing? Let's try and copy that. Mm-hmm. Let's try and make that part of our design philosophy. And so
in this regard, I don't think that RPGs are copying video games to tell stories in a different way. It's more so to, I guess, somewhat emulate video game mechanics.
Right, like earning experience through killing monsters and stuff.
More like abstracting different systems, because by their very nature, video games are limited in what you can do.
Right.
Because you just can't make a video game that can just copy reality, so to speak. And those kinds of mechanics are inspiration for like RPG mechanics that just probably refer
it's like to. Or like a 5th edition character doing like a fighter doing second wind or something.
I suppose.
Which like is like a self-heal, yeah.
Yeah. But like something more fundamental, like where it literally feels video gamey, like just just as the people that were in charge or involved with the production of the design and production of D&D Fourth Edition, they took a lot of their inspiration from World of Warcraft. Before I would get annoyed when I would hear that, but since the designers themselves said that, then hey,
Yeah, you can't say nothing about it now.
Yeah, that is the dealio.
Yeah.
And right. I don't think it's so much about trying to make stories the way they do. And
I think in general in this video he's gonna point out a bunch of times about how video games are influencing tabletop RPGs, but like he doesn't quite get it. Like he doesn't like sometimes it almost like I guess we'll get into it, but like there's times where it's just like I think you're not like there's like a historical like fog in your brain, like because he basically takes something that like that actually originated in RPGs, then got transferred over to video games, and then is sort of being filtered back into TTRPGs.
Yeah, we'll see if he gets into that.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that board games are literally taking a video game and going, cool, let's make it a board game, right? This makes sense to me as a board game. This is an excellent version of Slay the Spire. It's an excellent version of a deck building card game. It is a well-designed dungeon crawler. This makes sense to me. This is basically XCOM, but with 4 people or 5 people playing the game. Board games, I understand when they're trying to copy video games because there's not a lot of reason to try and
yeah, I mean those
like, so
that's basically taking it from converting it from a digital product to an analog product.
Yeah, but it's like it's crazy because XCOM is basically like 2000s era TTRPGs that are based on combat. You're on a grid, you have abilities, there are classes for your characters. It's just that XCOM is played by one player.
Yeah,
but it essentially like it's a video version of like what you see at a tabletop, where like you're drawing maps and then you're moving characters and you're attacking monsters.
Yeah.
Explore the lore in Slay the Spire. I started playing a video game yesterday on Steam. It is a cooperative roguelite type of game, and I was jumping into it, and there was a little scroll of text that was telling me about the world and the history and the lore and what happened and why the mages are being hunted and all that stuff. And I thought, oh, okay, this is something that video games tend to do. They push in and say, here's what the history of this world is, and you as the player are never going to be able to access any of that world knowledge.
That's kind of a strange objection.
Way to say that. Yeah, because it's like well, if the game is telling you the story, that's it. That's you, the player, accessing that information.
Yeah, and also, I mean, they're there to provide like some sort of narrative justification, so that
what's happening.
Players don't wonder, why the hell, why am I doing this?
Any of this?
Like even with non-video games like Magic the Gathering. What's the fluff behind it? There are 2 sorcerers like kind of battling it out, and they're channeling mana from the land and summoning creatures, and they're in a spell duel.
Right.
But like, if he wants more lore about that you can explore, and that's part of the advantage of the RPG. Even if the product, even if the game itself doesn't have a very detailed campaign setting, which seems to be, I believe his name is Nate, seems to be like one of the things Nate really likes about tabletop RPGs is exploring campaign setting lore. Each table or each campaign, I believe it was Alexander Macris that said this, each campaign is a law unto itself. So that, to me, that doesn't just mean about like what kind of game mechanics they use, but about their own version of the game world. And unless you have something like a Living Adventures type system, where where like a community coordinates so that different gaming groups that get involved all affect like the same campaign setting in the same way, like in some persistent world, you're not going to have that persistence only goes out so far as to the group, and in no other iteration of the way that campaign setting is being played will the same things happen.
Right, exactly, yeah.
All right. Good to go on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there are limitations in how you can interact in the world. You can punch or kick or pick up something or open a door. Even more complex games like Baldur's Gate, which is a very complex game. Mass Effect, very complex game. A lot of interaction, a lot of like changing the story with your character.
I don't think Mass Effect is that complicated of a game.
True. I mean, not
it's definitely in depth. Like this, like obviously, like there's lore to get lost in. There's a world to explore, but I don't think it's a particularly complicated game. And even like something like Baldur's Gate 3 of the CRPGs, it's probably the least complicated one.
I'm not sure about that, but
like if you compare it to like, well, I mean like something like Planescape Torment, or the variation of Planescape Torment that was made for example, for Numenera, that had its own Tides of Numenera.
Yeah, a spiritual sequel to it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Or like something like Disco Elysium. Or I recently purchased the Necromancer's Tale, which is basically along the same lines as like a Disco Elysium.
Okay.
Where like you're a secretive sort of wizard, you know, doing spellcraft at night or whatever, and then during the day you resolve like issues through your wiles. Like you seduce a countess, you you mastermind like stuff, like in which case it's not about combat necessarily. There is combat, but like it's not about that.
Okay. No, like I find like Baldur's Gate 3, it's made by Larian Studios, and the CRPGs that they've made, the Divinity,
yeah,
especially Divinity Original Sins, like that's where that type of CRPG came from.
Yeah.
Where like it feels more interactable because you can actually do things like move objects around in the world and basically jump. So other CRPGs beforehand, they don't have that kind of interactivity. That doesn't require like some special prompts to interact with.
Right.
Now, as far as like the complexity of the game goes, beyond combat, I still haven't beaten Baldur's Gate 3, so I can't really tell you.
Yeah, I haven't really played.
But yeah, it is a bit more involved than just click and move, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's not complicated. Like, it's a CRPG. It's going to be complicated, but I don't know. I think like the impression that I get is that Nate hasn't played that many video games.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. You ready to go on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You still don't have the ability to really ask any questions of the world. Like you don't get to ask deep questions. And the ones where you do get to ask deep questions, the developers need to formulate answers for those questions. In a tabletop RPG, if you are copying video game design, what you'll do is you'll do what Wild Seed does here, where you kind of give these little drop boxes of text like, hey, the core concepts, the treetops are a sea, land is scarce and valuable, plant growth is rampant, open flames are forbidden, right? These are all like sort of general ideas, but this is not lore. And so that means the dungeon master, when they are playing...
with this, I believe he's conflating two different issues. He's conflating the necessary limitations, and by, or rather, the innate limitations of a video game with a presence or absence of deep lore. So, unlike video games, with the tabletop RPG, ever since like the inception, what separates it from like board games and video games is that your character can attempt to do anything within their capabilities. It doesn't mean they're always going to, but you can always try if they're capable of doing so.
Right.
Whereas with a video game or a board game, the central ethos is if the rules don't say you can do something, then you can't. This is like one of the things that one of the more frustrating parts of playing board games, especially the first time playing a board game, when we're trying to do something and then like a lot of edge cases will come up. And hold up, let me check the rules, flipping through the rules, and if they can't find it there, then looking at like online boards for like official errata.
Right.
Whereas that shit just kills momentum for me. And oftentimes I think of the thought that pops in my head is the premise of what we're doing this board game, we can do in a TTRPG faster.
Right.
And with more depth. Now, what he's bringing about with like Wild Sea, for example, and in going with like these thematic or these bullet points to talk about like the different themes of the game and how that doesn't really go into deep lore.
But by the way, it's still lore.
Yeah, it's still lore.
He's being picky about like what constitutes lore. It's like, I mean, even if it's like it's an informational blurb, that's lore.
Yeah, and that has nothing to do with what the game is fundamentally about or not.
Right.
Because like in one shots, the lore doesn't really matter all that much. It hardly matters.
Also, I think like it's unfair the comparisons that he's making with video games, because I think like it's almost like he's comparing TTRPGs to the whole breadth of video games, when really like the only way that you can actually compare them is comparing TTRPGs with actual RPGs, and a lot of RPGs have encyclopedias in their menus.
Not only that, they have
so in a way you can ask the big questions.
Products. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. They'll have entire lore books or art books that will include lore sections. Or novels associate like there's so many World of Warcraft novels. I've never read any of them because like the world doesn't really interest me. But they exist. People enjoy them. Obviously, like we come from TTRPGs, and Dungeons and Dragons has so many books.
Yeah.
Ari Salvatore was one of like my favorite authors growing up. So, I mean, and he's going to say some stuff about Dungeons and Dragons, about how, like, it's, like, very shallow, but, like, Dungeons and Dragons has some of the most expansive world settings ever.
The campaign settings, too. But the base game itself?
The base game itself is just the rules.
Well, it's...
But I think at this point, the campaign settings are very accessible to almost anybody that wants to engage with them.
It's not just the rules. Because especially with, I distinctly remember with the first player's handbook for D&D 4th edition, that it describes like what a D&D setting is like, and it talks about points of light in like a land of darkness.
Well, I think the are you talking about the 4th edition book?
Well, as D&D is presented in the 4th edition player's handbook, like it talks about like thematic, like what D&D is thematically.
Right.
Kind of like how there are different Final Fantasy games, but they each carry, like there are common elements found throughout Final Fantasy games, like chocobos, Moogles, a guy named Sid, battling against like a god or some shit. And D&D in itself, it's kind of that. It's almost like a meta setting, so to speak.
Yeah,
or I do remember that pseudo setting.
Right, but I do remember that fourth edition in particular had actual lore settings in its main books
Like it talked
because
about
like they're
different. It talked about
they're ta-
different like planes, just like third edition that had
no,
like
I
a
mean like
cosmology.
they were talking about Faerun because remember Faerun went through a whole time skip where it went ahead like I think like 100 or so years, and so they were explaining the changes that happened on Faerun and like how like there's like something called the spell scar
Yeah,
that like messed up a bunch of wizards, and that was talked about. Like I remember, I never bought fourth edition, but I would go to like the bookstore at the mall, and I would like look through the book, and this was like back when I basically had no one to play with, and so it was basically just like me looking. So I remember they definitely did talk about the lore
I
in
recall
fourth edition.
something. I recall something about the spell plague in the Forgotten Realms.
Spell play game,
Right, but like a spell scar, like within a
a
core
spell
rulebook,
scar.
I don't
Mm,
recall seeing
right,
anything about that, nor about
yeah,
how this magic system was different beforehand. And no, like that game, it just introduced
right,
its magic system as it was without referring to any of the previous editions.
right.
Like things were either at will powers, encounter powers, or daily
Mm,
powers, or rituals, and like it presented those as this is always how things were, like in a
right,
D&D game
yeah,
or campaign setting. But yeah, in and of itself, like I also don't like the term D&D lore because
yeah,
it wasn't ever its own universe.
right,
Other or its own setting, other settings spawned from it.
right,
Even if before D&D there was Blackmoor and probably
right,
Greyhawk, and then from there, like that generated D&D, which became its own thing, and then from D&D emerged
other
like these other,
settings came out.
yeah. If I recall correctly, I think Larry Elmore's Forgotten Realms was created at first apart from D&D, and then it was acquired by TSR, and they
You
linked
mean
the two together.
Ed Greenwood?
Yeah, Ed
Ed
Greenwood.
Greenwood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready to continue?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
This game with their players needs to take on all the weight and all the burden of world building, because in a video game, once again, like players don't really have the ability to go, so wait, why is this here? Why is it like this? Why does this thing work the way that it does? You just go
Actually, for a
accept it,
second,
right? Like I'm playing a video game.
and actually, there's nothing wrong with that. It being on the players and the DMs, there's nothing wrong with that. Because all TTRPGs are conversations between referees and players, or DMs and players, or GMs and players. So if the lore is up to us, that's actually a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
I agree. And
Yeah.
also, like, I hear this objection about that. I think I've heard it from Nate himself, where like if it feels like the GM is just pulling stuff out of thin air, like making it up on the spot, that it doesn't feel as real as like if the game master is working with like an already established world. Um, I guess to steelman that argument, I would say that um, a GM with more prep has the ability to answer like lore investigation questions that the players have more readily and with more depth than someone who basically has to wing it or has like a vague idea of what it is.
Right.
But
Yeah,
at
that's
the end
true.
of the day, if you don't know about a thing, then it may as well be non-existent to you
Right.
until you come up to it
Yeah.
and you
And then you
interact
can
with it.
figure it out.
Yeah, like it's all a fog of
And
war anyways.
yeah. And I think it's like TTRPGs attract a lot of very creative people, and I think those kinds of people welcome those open spaces. They love to fill those spaces, those gaps in knowledge. They love adding their own little twist to the world. Their own, like, actually, like, the only reason why we have so many TTRPGs is because of that.
Yeah.
You have a bare bones system, and then from that you create worlds. Like, or like even you can look at like Mothership, which is like a new OSR type sci-fi horror.
Yeah. Hold on a second. I'm gonna actually
Yeah.
grab a copy just to
All right.
show
Thank
the
you.
camera.
Yeah. 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 And that can be converted to something like um, Cloud Empress, which is still a sci-fi fantasy, and well, it's a sci-fi fantasy, but it takes like the horror aspects and sort of twists it into a different sort of game.
Yeah, that's
But based off the skeleton that Mothership provided, just like how basic D&D gave rise to all sorts of games, like Lamentations of the Flame Princess,
yeah.
or OSC Dolmenwood.
Or Tunnels and Trolls, Osric, just a whole bunch of games.
Yeah. Or even if you look at something like Savage Worlds that has all the expansions that add worlds, well, that's still all based on the skeleton that Savage Worlds provided.
Right. With
Because the whole idea is right. Go ahead.
Yeah, with Savage Worlds, however, I put that in a different category of universal systems,
Mm-hmm.
where you have like a core chassis, and then
Mm-hmm.
from there, you tack
Yeah.
on, or you filter it through different like
Genres.
campaign
Yeah.
settings.
Yeah.
Whereas with like the OSR and games of the like, they take their own interpretations of, or they make changes to the chassis so that you can't so that they're not directly compatible with each other. In fact,
Right.
oftentimes they're not compatible with each other at all.
Right.
That's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
What should we call it? And actually, the ones that aren't, or the clones that, yeah, the D&D clones, they're clones, And for me, I guess those are, in my opinion, the weaker expressions of the OSR, when you just clone a previous product and make like very minor changes. And in that sense,
Right.
like Pathfinder First Edition could be said to kind of be a clone of D&D 3.5.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a retro clone. Yeah, it literally is.
Okay, ready to continue?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I know I am. If a tabletop RPG company is copying video game design and they do similar things and ignore the fundamental aspects of world building, what you get is a world that when players try to interact with it and ask questions, the dungeon master is left scrambling going, and a good dungeon master can make up things on the spot. Mm-hmm. I can make up things on the spot. I'm not that.
Okay, so with regards to that, I don't see that so much as RPGs copying off of video game designs.
Yeah,
that seems more like someone who wants to run an RPG based off of a video game, and I mean, that's one of my fortes. Or that's like one of the things that I do as well.
Mm-hmm.
But where he talks about here about the dungeon master being stumped whenever a player wants to deviate off a path, that happens when a dungeon master basically tries to put players, or to run the same plot of a video game onto their players as they would the person playing the video game, which just for lack of a better term, I think is the wrong way to do it.
Right.
Instead, you can even have like the plot as like the background, like one way that things can turn out, but with each iteration of it, unlike with a video game where due to limitations of it, you're going to have to make it to point B or point C or so on and so forth.
Right.
Inevitably, with a TTRPG, or with a TTRPG version of a video game setting or plot, you can have all those background elements and then just have that as the starting point, and then from there on, it's just like it's an alternate reality of what happens in that tabletop version of that storyline.
Yeah, and it's definitely not copying. It's not like TTRPG creators are copying video games by having like bare bones lore, because that's not like because there's video games with like barely any lore, but there's video games with very deep lore.
Yeah, and those are the better ones
Yeah, right.
to use
and it's just like
as TTRPGs.
Right. So it's just I really don't understand like what the point is. It's just like because like that's not a universal thing about video games that they have like bare bones lore. So I don't know why that would be like a design decision. It's like I don't think there's nobody who writes TTRPGs who's like, damn, I love it when games have no lore. Let me put that in my TTRPG.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Nate is addressing or is objecting to something that actually exists or is actually like an issue. It may be an issue, but yeah, that's the sign of like an inexperienced game master.
Yeah.
Okay, ready to continue?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Great of a dungeon master, but I can make up things on the spot. I cannot make up fundamental world building ideas on the spot, and when I am forced to do that, I get into this shaky territory where I have started to build a house of cards or two.
To me, that's a sign of a game master who has not thought a lot about the video game setting that they want to place their TTRPG players into.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
or it's just like it's also like I think it's like almost like an inexperienced thing about DMing as well. Because if you know that's your weakness, why would you pick a game that doesn't have lore? You choose a game that has lore. There's plenty of them.
Yeah. That or just make your own version, make your own board game version of it.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Toothpicks with bubblegum, and at any moment, a player will ask that pivotal or fundamental question of an NPC, and I go, crap. They figured out this world is empty. I think it's great for games to copy video games in a lot of ways.
It just sounds like you didn't prepare.
Right, even though that's he's expressing that sensation in that way. I don't think it's very helpful to describe a world that way of being empty. More like, okay, this is an unknown, and you just happen to caught me in a spot where I haven't like filled in the blanks yet.
So you and I and family tabletop, Nate and Lex, we live in a world of mysteries actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't have access to the deep lore about our world.
Right.
So, at least not everything. Literally, just what's within the scope of just like what's within the scope of like human knowledge and the things that we can analyze.
Mm-hmm.
So, RPG worlds can be the same way.
Yeah. And even then, one of the strengths of, I guess, doing that that exercise of role playing through a video game world is that we don't have to. There's nothing really making us adhere to the fidelity of that video game world. Right? You can just like really go off script and like change fundamental things about it and play it much differently than is originally experienced in the video game. I mean, hell, uh, even the video game itself, or the franchise, or the IP itself, deviates strongly from this. For example, what you call it? The game Elden Ring Night Rain. Even though a lot of like the background lore is very similar to Elden Ring, the way things progress, and also due to the nature of the way the game is played, the lore developed very differently from like from the base Elden Ring game. It's not like an expansion. Like it's kind of like a Fortnite, so to speak. You know, you got like your three heroes. You know, you go like killing stuff, and you're leveling up so that you can get to like the center, or you can survive till the third day, and then you fight the boss for that stage, because you pick a boss that you want to fight.
Right.
And you know, if you want to, I mean, that'll be like an incredibly hectic world to role play in, because it's basically like an apocalypse event that's happening.
Right.
As opposed to like Elden Ring, which is a post-apocalypse event.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's like a post-apocalypse thing. Everything's already fucked up.
Yeah. And honestly, I wouldn't use Night Rain as itself as like a setting to
turn into a TTRPG.
Right. Or at the very least, I wouldn't try to emulate its gameplay style as like a TTRPG.
As like a TTRPG.
All right. But yeah, that even there, that's the designers of the game itself, or the setting, saying, "Oh, you thought you knew about Elden Ring? Check this out." Boom. Vastly different interpretation. And you can do the same thing as a GM when you take a game world and you use it as a place for TTRPG players to explore. Okay, continue on.
Yeah.
But when tabletop RPGs do it, what we get oftentimes is Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, which looked at Dungeons and Dragons 3rd and 3.5 edition, and they went, let's just video game it up a little bit. Let's just give you some powers you can press the button on. Let's give you a healing option you can press the button on. You're basically playing a video game character.
This, I think, is not a very charitable interpretation of it. In my opinion, 3rd edition already started going towards the video game route. We're going along like this train of thought.
Yeah, they were already being informed by like the things that were developing around them, and also the trying to capture like the fantasy of like the books that were coming out.
Right.
Because obviously the novel started coming out around 2nd edition, from what I understand, and 2nd edition wasn't quite heroic fantasy.
It was going more towards that way.
It was going towards that way, but it wasn't quite there. There was still some like OSR-ish sort of like things about it. And 3.5 was definitely like when it went on in, like you're a group of friends, you're all badass, you go on adventures, you fight the monsters.
And while 3.x didn't go as hard into everybody has a set of paper buttons that they can press, like 4th edition did, it did go hard into character customization and character builds. That was definitely a thing in 3rd edition. Especially in 3rd edition classes.
You had basically one button, and then all of the things that you would all the feats that you would have, the things that would make your build, were add-ons to that button.
Or to the few buttons when you had.
Yeah. But like, I mean, like essentially if you attacked, well, you have a power attack. or like, as you level up, you might have cleave. So now not only do you do a strong attack against one enemy, you potentially do it against 2 or 3 enemies,
Right. Like
and so on and so forth.
like
Yeah,
conditional things and
right.
knobs.
Yeah,
With
sort of like if you
critical, okay, you have a greater chance of doing the critical, and then confirming criticals and all that
like you
shit.
have a synthesizer, and you have all these little knobs that sort of like change the way that you do the main thing, which is like like produce various sounds,
Mm-hmm.
and so you have knobs to like modulate that. So you would just have like you'd have like these features that would allow you to modulate the things your character could already do.
Yeah, and then fourth edition basically gave everyone the same button format, but just each class
Had
has
its own
different.
flavor,
Yeah, and then
like a class fantasy.
mm-hmm. And then with fifth edition, uh, there's more of a prevalence of most classes having their own, depending on their build, their own resource that they managed. But even then,
Right.
that wasn't like as much as a hardcore feature as like other games would do it.
Right.
Okay, continuing on.
Yeah. Cool.
In Dungeons and Dragons. And like whatever, some people love it, some people hated it. It was a mixed bag. But that is video game design in TTRPGs. When I'm thinking about game design stuff with tabletop RPGs, at this point, I want the deep lore. I don't want elves and dwarves, and I want why. And that's one of the reasons why I've mentioned I really like Warcrow. It is a world that when I look at it, I'm like, oh wow, that's a weird world.
Right.
That's a weird world with cactus people and spiders. Problem is in Wildsea, there's no explanation for why those things are that way. It's just, figure it out, stupid.
It.
Yeah, just
If he likes deep lore so much, tabletop RPGs are not the best hobby for that. For that,
Yeah.
read novels.
Yeah, like read a novel, watch some movies, read a manga. There's plenty of them.
Mm-hmm.
Thing is also there's also games for that. There are TTRPGs with the deep like Vampire the Masquerade. He might not like that. It might not be his cup of tea. But like something like Vampire the Masquerade or Mage the Ascension or even the new World of Darkness titles. Like
do they still do the whole meta plot thing?
They all the new World of Darkness titles have like a sort of a connecting like tissue. Have like connected tissue that brings all of the expansions in the new World of Darkness together. But any of those games, which have all sorts of those games have very very deep lore, and if you have a bunch of players that are, or even something like Ars Magica, very deep lore. Has lore books for the various regions of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes place in Europe and in the world, but like a mythical version of it. And if you have players who are very interested in that particular game, you see that a lot with like Vampire the Masquerade. There's people who are very interested in Vampire the Masquerade. Then you can have those sorts of deep lore games where the players are essentially they're story gamers, where they're playing their character as if it's like a whole new, like it's a different person, like an alter ego.
Yeah,
where people will get into the drama.
Everyone knows about the lore of the setting, and
Right.
therefore, they can make characters very specific to that setting.
Right.
And since everyone's in the know, they can get an appreciation of it that you don't get
exactly
elsewhere.
The problem with those kinds of settings, or like with that type of like deep lore, is that it's really hard to get new players into it. Yeah. Like it's only you have to like buy into it.
Yeah,
and World of Darkness was
we have our stories.
Yeah,
and my missus, and it is a lamentation when you want to be a deep lore GM, but the players are just not into either that setting's lore, or just into exploring the setting itself. Like,
so when he talks about like games having like informational blurbs, that's actually like that's not a bad thing. That's utility. It's utilitarian. A lot of that stuff isn't necessary. It can be. And yeah, and that's essentially the problem with like that sort of like if people don't buy in, then it just ends up as empty as it would have been anyways.
Yeah, it just becomes fluffy bullshit.
Yeah, that people aren't interested in because I just want to bite some necks. I just want to cast some spells. If you're doing Mage the Awakening,
yeah, they want to live out some sort of power fantasy.
Power fantasy, right? So yeah, that could be a nice thing if like everyone's like, like remember that one time we went to Adventure Gaming and the people were having a World of Darkness game where like everyone had like a different book because they were all playing like different types of characters.
I don't remember that, but
it might have been one of the times I went by myself, but like that's definitely something that would happen at that store, right?
Yeah.
And that's definitely a thing that would happen in people who like the World of Darkness. Like they would be like, oh, let's do a campaign where everyone gets to play the supernatural of their choice.
Yeah.
So one guy would be a vampire, one guy would be a werewolf, one guy would be a wraith or a mage or a changeling.
Yeah,
and you have these sort of mishmash.
They would do basically a Marvel team up movie game.
And with games like that, like people would literally buy the books because, like, you needed the book to be able to create the character that you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And like that sort of like setting also lent itself to like LARPs, because you would dress up as a vampire and you would go to the golf club. Mm-hmm. Now that's not my thing. But that's an immersion in and of itself. Like that's like immersion of another type that maybe I'm not into, but I can see why other people would be into it.
Yeah.
So like, there are things you can do. Like there's games with the deep lore that you can have that at your table, but it's not the end all be all. It's not going to save TTRPGs. Just like how games with less lore aren't ruining TTRPGs. Because the thing is that games with deep lore have been around since the start. Well, not since the start, but like very early on. Like by the time like you get to the 80s, 90s, you have games with deep lore. And funny enough, those aren't the games that survived.
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind when talking about or the critique of games with not deep lore, it's kind of like critiquing starting a campaign setting with just like a village and a dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from there, things grow outwards. It's like, It's as if he was advocating for, if you're going to play in a campaign setting, you better have the campaign setting like complete and comprehensive before starting your very first game. Like that's really exaggerated, and it turns out to be like a huge waste of time. Whereas you can get into a game quicker by starting with just a village.
If anything, he's the one copying video games, because when you turn on the video game, the entire video game is available to you.
You just have to waiting for you to get to that point.
Get to it. So someone already has to create it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in TTRPGs, we have the flexibility to create as we go and to make rulings as we go. And
it's kind of like playing a demo, so to speak.
Right.
And then once you get through that demo, then you make a continuation of the demo.
Right.
And then another continuation of the demo. And
so not just that, you basically create as you go. If you have like a lore idea and like the lore idea doesn't make sense at the table, like maybe you had like an idea and you mentioned it at the table and someone goes like, that doesn't make sense. Well, now you guys can get together and create and make it make sense. Or create, or have a new suggestion. Someone could be like, hey, why don't we do this instead?
Or to play to find out what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Play to find out what happens. Yeah.
All right. Onward.
Just accept it. You could read through the individual stuff for that character, and you as a player need to extrapolate and formulate that. You as a dungeon master need to try and make all that make sense. And that's to me disappointing. When I look at tabletop RPGs, I see an industry where the hardest part of the design element.
For a second, just to make a comment, I don't want to go into, but it's like why is that disappointing? Like it's a creativity game that you get to use your creativity. You get to fill in the gaps. You get to fill in the empty space. You get to create your own flavor.
Yeah, and
why is that disappointing?
And that need to have all the answers before going forward. Again, you're not playing to find out what happens. This is the frustrated author.
Right.
Element has been left to the players to design. It's almost like we're being handed toolkits for Unreal Engine and said, "Why don't you just build your own game, idiot?"
Another. Yeah. A game master is, by definition, a game designer. And since players are part of the conversation, they're game designers too. So actually, the fact that we...
In a sense, it can get to that point.
So in the sense that the fact that they're giving us the Unreal Engine so that we can create our own games is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, the game system and the game mechanics are the Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Or
so
I guess a more accurate...
That's not sad. It's not disappointing.
Right. I think a more accurate representation of what the TTRPG Unreal Engine would be, it would be like Universal Game Systems, or like the Cortex Prime toolkit or Fate. Like those are toolkits. Like you can run games out of the box like that, but those toolkits themselves, they ask the game master, like, how you want to use it for your game, because unlike Savage Worlds and GURPS, there is no preset way of like what stats you're going to use, or like what abilities you're going to use. Like you're going to have to make that. You're going to have to make those tools beforehand, and to make them in accordance with the game you're doing.
Yeah. So for game masters, hacking is cool. And if, for example, if you're a 5e head and that's what you play, fine. I'm not trying to take nothing away from nobody.
Right. But 5e is like a very, it's very fertile grounds for hacking.
Right. And people definitely do that. That's what we call that homebrew. But like I'm saying, I'm trying to remember what I was trying to say. But but if you're willing to read other types of books and learn different types of rule systems and experiment, hacking isn't disappointing. It's not sad. It's super cool. And actually, it's the foundation of the entire hobby. If people weren't hacking, there wouldn't be a hobby. It would still be in Lake Geneva, dudes in their garage. Which also, nothing wrong with that either.
Not even that. It wouldn't go past like the Stratego book they found in like the university.
Yeah, exactly. They literally just would have played war games. They would have continued playing Napoleonics. Yeah. They would have continued playing Napoleonics. Yeah.
All right. Ready to move on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I really like when I find a fantasy world where I'm like, wait, what? That's weird. How does that work? Why does that work? And I get to go into the lore of that storytelling system, and I go, oh, they actually connected this part, and they connected that part. And in the history, they connected these other parts. And that's why we have this thing over here eventually.
I don't know. I feel like my concern with video games and tabletop RPGs is more about the player themselves. I'm talking about like the role-playing aspect and the lore part of it.
Right.
I think that when you have someone, if someone can separate the video game mentality from a TTRPG mentality, that's awesome if you can do that. But if you can't, it's like you're bringing this video game mentality into a role-playing game where it's just not the same type of play.
That's a much more understandable issue of the friction between video games and tabletop RPGs. Like, personally, like in my life, I've got a couple friends who I ultimately had to make the determination that tabletop RPGs are just not for them.
Right.
Because, well, for one of them, due to like where they are in the spectrum and how their ADHD manifests, like they need the tactile elements, they need the visual elements, because otherwise, they cannot retain attention. And
I think that's go ahead.
Like that's one of those fundamental things you need in order to play a tabletop role-playing game, is you need to pay sufficient attention. If your attention gets diverted off elsewhere whenever the game master is describing something, or if there's like a combat and that's its own mini game and you're not paying attention to what's going on, like if you can't focus, then you can't play properly. Imagine someone not having the attention in a baseball game,
and they get hit with a ball.
They get hit with a ball, or
they let a ball just hit the ground and they don't even make an attempt to catch it.
Or like they're at the batters. They're at the batter's mound and the pitcher throws and they just strike out and never swing because they're waiting for someone to tell them when to swing the bat. It's like, pay attention to the ball and time it and apply the proper technique so you can like hit home runs or whatever the fuck.
But also I don't think it's necessarily even just like a video game mentality necessarily. At least not every time.
Well, because what I was going to get to with the other friend is for this person, there's nothing, or there doesn't seem to be anything that a TTRPG does that they can't get fulfilled by a video game. And the video game provides the visuals, the audio, the reflex and timing of like playing the game. Like the limitations of it doesn't bother them. So and with that particular person, I've reached that conclusion because they've never of their own volition told me, hey, I would like to play such and such TTRPG. It's never out of their own accord. Like it's always been out of mine. And like, just looking at patterns, and just coming to conclusions.
Yeah, but I don't think that's necessarily like a video game issue. I think that's just like a person issue. Which isn't like necessarily like a bad thing about them, but it's just like there's something that about them that doesn't jive with the activity.
Well, it could also be because it could be what they've been exposed to first.
Right.
But even intensity.
I mean that's true because it's like a generational thing, where like we came from a time where the video games weren't quite as like addictive as they are now, or like not quite as visually like insane as they are now, and so things that are analog, like they fit within. Like it was something that you could do because like it's like nowadays like you just like you put on your Netflix and you binge a show and you're constantly being stimulated. But back then, because our the games that we would like RPGs or like CRPGs, they were very slow, very buggy. So in a way, analog things like TTRPGs could compete with it.
So I guess to draw on like my experience, first, I played video games before playing tabletop role playing games or getting into the hobby. Starting with the very first Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest for the Nintendo, like when Nintendo Power released the issue with a free Dragon Quest game, like that, probably back before you were born.
Possibly, yeah.
And I didn't really understand it all that much. Like I thought it was kind of boring, just having random encounters, fighting monsters, and even not understanding how to save, because the king would say, "Oh, would you like to record your adventures in the Imperial Scrolls of Honor?" And I didn't realize that was this game's way of saying like to save. And it's like, I'll put no. It's like, "Oh, do you want to continue your quest?" Like, "No, I'm tired." Like, "Okay, until next time, hero." And then when I'd start again, I would have to create a new game. Progress. Yeah, because I never saved it. Yeah. And however, with time, I did come to really enjoy JRPGs. First with like Final Fantasy. I think the breakthrough RPG for me was Final Fantasy 2 or 4. It came out for the SNES, and then I played Part 1, and then I played through the Dragon Warriors again.
Right.
And in middle school, like I guess as a hobby, I would design instruction manuals for games that I would like to create. And even then, like I was introduced to the concept of Dungeons and Dragons, and I would hear stories about like, oh, how they made a first level character with 1 hit point, and I thought, I know what hit points are. I have an idea of what like a level of character was, and I thought, bro, just dying in 1 hit, that sucks. Like that game sucks because of that. And so I didn't play. And this is probably still it may have been pre-second edition D&D.
Right.
But back in 9th or 10th grade, I had a friend. His cousin gave him the Ravenloft box set, with like the second edition D&D books, and we actually got to play. And it was then that I discovered that not only am I able to basically like make the games I wanted to make, but without having to learn all the
computer programming. Yeah.
Like I can funnel that desire through that, but this is a fundamentally different activity, because I can do more. I can do more than any video game can allow me to do.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. Also, one last thing is that later on in this video, we're going to see that they're going to talk about how like they'll play in games where basically the characters, where all the players are basically playing their character, and they barely have to roll dice. If a player doesn't jive with that, I don't think it necessarily means that they're bringing in video game mentality. I think that style of play doesn't jive for many players.
Well, I was getting into with, I guess, like that part of my tabletop RPG backstory was that I got to that point where I got to experience something that wasn't a video game, but that I can do more with another hobby than what I can normally do with a video game. And that this other friend that I'm talking about, I don't think that they've ever had that experience before their adulthood. And by the time they reach their adulthood, like that really didn't make much of an impression on them. Especially not just due to lack of exposure, but of never having played through a campaign before. I've played through a campaign before over the phone, but I still played through a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I've wanted to, what you call it? I wanted to reproduce, wanted to play through another campaign or run players through another campaign, because it is much more than just playing through like 10 different one-shots that are not interconnected.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, for sure.
Anything else before I move on?
No.
Okay.
What you were saying helped me to think of a different thing, but I want to address the thing you said.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of people who are playing tabletop RPGs and they're simply going, all right, I'm going to be Commander Shepard from Mass Effect. I'm going to drop that character in and I'm going to play the game. I'm going to be me and I'm going to play the game. And I think the other end of that is
I don't think there's a problem with that in and of itself, because I did that in another like short Ravenloft campaign that I played in, where I created Alucard through D&D, like from Symphony of the Night. You know, he was a fighter mage. The GM and I, we both created the Dhampir character race, and you know, he played another character because he always liked to have a DMPC. But because of like my familiarity of the character through the events of Symphony of the Night, you know, I felt I had a solid basis from how to channel my role play as this character.
Right.
You know, I would even do the deep voice like this from Symphony of the Night. You know? Okay, hang on, word.
you get people trying to run games and they pick up a book like this and they go, cool, let me try and run a game now. And what this thing doesn't tell you is that you need to formulate an entire world story and history on your own. Because if you don't, what you're offering your players is a shallow experience. The mindset that we don't need to create intricate,
you're just prioritizing different things.
Yeah.
For things that, for like, because like different players have different likes.
Yeah.
You know?
Like the kind of player, one of the kind of players that would annoy me is the one who would want to pick up a particular book in a dungeon room and have me dictate the entire book's contents word per word.
Yeah, it's just like
motherfucker, I don't have that.
And you don't have enough time in this dungeon to read all of it anyways.
Yeah, it's like, stop wasting my time. Yeah, we're not here for that.
Historic worlds is a materialist mindset. The materialist mind looks at things and goes, that's the way it is.
I also don't think he knows what materialist means, but okay.
A doorway is a doorway, it's not a threshold. And when you go into creating a game world as a game master, yeah, you can just willy-nilly make up a religion on the spot and go, this is what the world believes, and that's why they put out the third eye of every second child they have, or whatever. You know,
Nate needs to watch the campaigns that Trevor Duvall does in Me, Myself, and Die. He's basically doing each season he's playing a different system and doing it solo using different tools. He does it first season, he does it with Savage Worlds, and then for like the solo mechanics he uses Mythic. He uses I believe it's called the Forbidden Wilds. It's some content generating product for Dungeon World. Second season he does Ironsworn. Third season I believe he does Dominion Rules, but once again using Mythic. Fourth season he's using his own game system that he's developing as he's like playing the game. It's called Broken Empires, which I'm still waiting for completion because I put that thing on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
But like throughout all that, he's generating content like on the fly.
Yeah.
And I don't see like how that's illegitimate, so to speak, illegitimate content creation. Like whenever the character interacts with something and he needs to find out like what it is or what happens, yeah, he's generating content, but at the end of the day, the content is there, whether or not it's generated on the spot.
Yeah. Basically, he's basically taking the thing that he likes and saying that, and he's exalting it, and then saying that everything he doesn't like is just bad.
Yeah, there's no justification other than
my I don't like it.
Yeah.
That's just how it works, okay? All Felix Isaacs had to do was come in here and tell me what a Celicrae thinks about, what kind of personality do they have? What do they like from the world?
What is the character in said campaign doing in order to prompt that kind of information?
Yeah.
Otherwise it's an out-of-character conversation.
Yeah.
What's some stuff that they look for doing? Like when you look at this spider creature, what does it want? Why does it want those things? What's its end goal? What's its hope? I understand you have like some basic general ideas of spirituality and religion. And the problem was when I initially went through this book to try and run this game for us, it didn't give us any of the connective pieces to help you and the rest of the players connect with your characters. You just went, so I'm a cactus guy, and Bishop went, so I'm a spider guy, and then you tried to be those characters as yourselves.
In regards to that,
don't be yourself.
Well,
just don't be yourself, right?
There's a Q&A that Troy Duvall did, where he talks about when he reluctantly like got into another 5th edition campaign, playing like a human barbarian, and every other player was playing like some sort of anthropomorphized character, and in character he said, "Oh, who let all the monsters out?" And then the players were like fucking triggered, and like he calls those like menagerie settings because it's a fucking menagerie of characters. And in that respect, I can understand like a player's, I guess, kind of frustration about not knowing like what kind of like needs and wants these characters have, because like I'm also personally, I'm not a fan of menagerie settings as well, because for me it just feels like Halloween, because that's how players play these characters.
I'm a lizard dude.
Yeah. And it's like, all right, good for you. You got a long tail, you look ugly as fuck.
It's just like those are things for you to figure out when the book doesn't answer the question for you.
No, like I guess to go back to the autistic ADHD friend that I was telling you about earlier. She has this thing where she says humans are boring, and that's why whenever she does like a role play or does fan fiction, it's with anthropomorphized characters. But like when I've read like that fiction, it just seems like a bunch of people doing human things. It's like,
but I'm a dog dude.
Yeah, but I'm a dog dude, or I'm a centaur dude, or
I'm the minotaur.
Yeah, or I'm of a society that we make our members by killing people of different species and then Frankensteining them together and then reanimating them. And I have a nation and nobody has beef with that. It's like, what? Like this world makes no sense. Even though it's fantasy, it makes no sense. The psychology is human.
Yeah, you're still essentially playing humans.
Yeah. So I guess my stance on that would be either play a largely like in a campaign where all players are human, and then have these other creatures as otherworldly, or playing a campaign where no one is a human, and everyone is playing like an animal person of some sort.
Yeah. I mean, old school games used to like do it that like you would have to roll a certain way to get some of the classes.
Yeah, you need
So
a minimum set of
elements,
and it would be the
so
same
it would be hard.
An elf or a dwarf.
Exactly.
Those were classes.
Yeah. So it would make it harder to get those classes. So like it would make elves rare. And so like your character might die, and then you have to re-roll, and then you'll be like, oh, I got an elf this time, or I can make an elf this time based on these stats.
No, with the campaign I told you I played, I rolled a paladin basically. Like I rolled the minimum, because to make a paladin in second edition you needed 13 strength. I believe you needed, I don't know if you needed 13 dexterity. You needed 10 constitution. I believe 13 wisdom and 17 charisma. And I rolled this character 3d6 down the line, no changing stats. And I rolled 15, 15, 10, 10, 13, 17. It's like, fuck yes, I'm a paladin. I'm a fighter plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah,
that's all I have to say about
yeah.
menagerie campaigns.
I wrote down some notes.
What's up?
No, for now I think we'll be mostly just nitpicking.
Hey, that's what reaction videos are, is nitpicking.
Yeah, it's nitpicking, yeah.
For myself in actual notes. I don't do this often, but I had the idea while I was playing this game yesterday. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to read what I've written, so it's a little scripted. But TTRPGs are not video games, but a lot of writers design their TTRPGs like video games. In a video game, you can allude to lore ideas, and you never really need to expand on those ideas to a player. A player will come into the world and just accept that wizards are hunted here. That's my goal is to interact in a world where.
Again, a lot of the games that would have lore like that will have encyclopedias.
Now, here's a question that came to mind. Is it more that, say, published adventures are designed like video games rather than TTRPGs?
I don't think that's really the case. I think published adventures, especially like for like 5e, I think the problem for a lot of them, especially the mainline ones that are released by WotC, the problem isn't that they're being designed like video games. Because they're not. Because they would actually be very boring video games. Like Dragon Heist as a video game would be boring. But I think the problem is that like GMs aren't writing the books. Writers are writing the books. So they actually look more, they read more like novels than they do either video games or TTRPGs.
One, I actually that is the case, but I mean, Pathfinder, from what I've heard, is notorious for having like railroady published adventures, the adventure paths. Shit, the name of it, adventure path. You're on this path.
Yeah, you're on a path. Yeah. And then like if you read if you read the adventures that came out for Adventurers League, which is 5e's organized play. I mean, it's essentially like it's just like single encounters, oftentimes, or like a series of encounters, to the point where like they might as well be like a 3 or 4 or 5 room dungeon, but without the dungeon. You're like in the glades right now, and then now you're on the river, and then now you're like in the cave. And each one is its own encounter.
And they're just teleporting you as you finish.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So like you went down the river on the log, and now you're inside the cave. The river goes into the cave, and now you're inside the cave.
Yeah. And if it's not a combat encounter, then it's a poor man's version of an OSR style exploration.
Yeah, because in 5e dungeons, you'll notice that in a lot of them, the dungeon sort of makes like a U shape, because essentially you're just going from room to room. There's almost no branching paths.
Now that's like video gamey design. And
it is video
like,
game design.
especially with like Skyrim, like you'd have a lot of caves that you would explore, where it invariably it's a curved straight line. Where at the end, once you reach the end, you open up a shortcut that leads you to the beginning, and you're out of the dungeon.
Well, to be honest, I think it's basically like I have a word count that I need to hit, so I need all these extra rooms, because I think like the video game design for like a dungeon, especially like in what's called in Skyrim, it's actually shorter. Like 5e does this thing where like they'll have rooms that are totally pointless. Like you go into a room and it's like there's a cot and some trash. So it almost like it punishes you for wanting to explore. Whereas a video game has to hook you. So if you're going down the hallway, something has to be at the end of the hallway, or something has to be in the hallway, or at the very least there has to be something in the next room for you to do.
Well, in the D&D dungeon, for these seemingly empty rooms, don't they serve as spots for like a short rest or like long rest?
There's just too many of them. Like there's I forgot the name of the adventure, but there's an Adventurers League adventure that I ran at a convention where you're essentially you're going into a model into I guess like an underground graveyard basically. And the first couple of rooms that you enter is mostly just like it's mostly for like a visual. It's like you enter where it's like there's various tombs where like the skeletons are placed in finery, and they're like in like I guess a simulacrum of like a dining room. And so they have a table, and they'll have like stuff on the table, and then the people will be the skeletons will be sitting in chairs, dressed in fine clothes. And so you like it felt more like you went to Disney World and you got into one of the rides where you're basically like it's a small world, where you're basically just going from like area to area, and like what's cool about the area is basically like the visual that's inside that area.
Like a theme park.
Yeah, it feels like you go into this room, there's weird skeletons, but the skeletons don't do anything. There's just weird skeletons. And you go to the next room, and there's like something else that you can barely interact with. And it just goes. It gives you the impression that like basically they think a TTRPG or an adventure is basically like things to see. And it gives you the impression that these guys are basically just like, I have a word count to hit, and so I need to have this room with trash in it. Because it's like, it takes up space.
Yeah.
Even though it does nothing for like the, and what I noticed is that the best designed adventures aren't the ones that give you a crap ton of information. They only give you the information that you actually need to run the area.
Yeah,
and the castle's account of
it has stuff for the player characters to meaningfully
interact with. Yeah. And the castle's account, the curse, is a perfect example of that. Or even if you look at the dungeons made by Gavin Norman, either for OSE or for Dolmenwood.
Which one?
And Winter's Daughter, or what's it called? The Incandescent Grottos. Like when you look at the dungeon key, it's not hitting you with paragraphs of information. It's like it's giving you information that like ties to your senses. So what does your character sense when they walk into a room? And so and then it gives you things to interact with. Right? So So I don't know.
Yeah, it fills out space.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not just like packing word count. It's basically there's a point to everything in the dungeon. Now, eventually you can have like a room that's maybe like it's a secret room and it's closed off, and you can use it to rest. But sometimes in 5e dungeons, sometimes these rooms are literally at the entrance. Like you'll walk into an entrance room, and then there'll be 4 rooms adjacent to it, and then the 4 rooms will be empty. So like all along, they wanted you to go up the stairs. So they made these 4 pointless rooms that have nothing in them. And it tells players that if you look around, you're likely to be disappointed.
Yeah, and when there's no mention of, or correct me if I'm wrong, but there doesn't seem to be any mention of like time passing or how much time stuff takes, or like dungeon turns, basically. Every turn, you make your random encounters roll, like the stuff that makes the procedures that makes a dungeon feel alive.
Right.
Like that seems to be forgotten. I can't say it with confidence with 3rd edition D&D, but it especially seems to be the case with 5th edition D&D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
I'm not familiar with
and everything is curated.
Yeah.
Like you're always gonna find this thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a part where I can see that is cribbed from video game design. Like when you go to this place, there's always going to be these enemies here just waiting for your ass to just show up so they can kill you.
Yeah, that's why it was so jarring for me when I first started reading OSR adventures, and I noticed that in certain adventures, you would read through the whole adventure and you'd be like, where are the monsters? Well, the monsters are supposed to be random.
Yeah, they're in the random encounters table.
Yeah. So there is no room where the monsters are supposed to be in.
And not only that, the reaction roll makes it so that not every monster encounter is a combat.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it might be a friendly monster, and then he joins your team. Or like a monster that might have an issue with another monster, and it'll be like, hey, go help me out.
Yeah, it all depends on how those random encounter tables are designed. Okay, ready going forward?
Yeah.
Oh, also, let me know when you want to take a break or just stop.
Wizards are hunted. And since most video games are limited in their scope and players cannot ever really explore the lore, you don't need to expand that lore outwards. There is a limited way that a player will ever be able to interact with the lore, right? If you're playing Dead Cells, you have to just accept the fact that this is the way the world is, and there is a Hand of the King, and you have to beat him because that's the game, right? In a TTRPG, if the lore is vague or alluded to, then it falls on the game master. The game master has to make everything up on the spot or create it on their own in preparation time. All the deep connections that have been alluded to in the lore must be tied together either during the campaign or prior to it. Right. This is a difficult job for a game master to do. I see a lot of GMs adding homebrew mechanics to their tool sets into their TTRPGs in the hopes that it will fix the problems that they're encountering. If they simply just played the setting with a deeply grounded lore, I think a lot of their mechanical difficulties would be solved.
I disagree with that because you can get a GM who can take a campaign setting with deeply grounded lore and disregard the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
And not even read it,
Yeah, that's true. And also, you could pick a setting that has deeply rooted lore, and your players don't regard it.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, like what they don't get is that I think most TTRPG players don't want to play pretend. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting into your character and talking in voices. There's nothing wrong with that. I've done that.
Right.
But it's not for everybody. And there's nothing wrong with that.
By play pretend, what do you mean exactly?
I mean, like when I mean, and it's not like to be disparaging. It's mostly just to like I guess describe the style of sort of like almost like what you would imagine if like a bunch of like kids that like are into like drama or like are in drama club if they were to do a TTRPG where they get really into the character and they get really into having like story arcs for the character. Whereas I just want to go and do the adventure.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So like so basically, like if you dressed up like a vampire and you went to the golf club so that you could be in the Vampire the Masquerade LARP, there's nothing wrong with that. That's cool. But I don't think everybody wants to do that.
Right. Yeah. That depends on what you call it.
But there are people out there who are like, I'm Carmilla, like I'm I got dressed up. I don't know what's like I'm Lestat, like I'm that vampire dude. Look at my vest, like
or my chest.
Look at my chest hairs. And my goth necklace.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when playing a character, or rather, when players are playing their characters, they're engaging in some self-serving agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And if the lore doesn't have anything to do with that, then that's less of an incentive for them to give a shit about the lore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Because if you tell players who their character is in the world, the game suddenly switches to be a player-driven game,
right?
And the game master can simply respond to things with their understanding of the lore. Right.
Now, another, I guess, remedy to that, or possible fix, would be if players were given pre-generated characters that already have some lore to them. And if they want to explore, that'll give them more of an incentive to explore more into the lore of their characters. This is especially the case with, again, to use Larian Studios games as an example, with Divinity Original Sin 2 and with Baldur's Gate 3, where they have what are called origin characters.
Yeah.
And they're pre-gens. Not only like race and class combinations, but characters that have a backstory and goals that they want to achieve. And there will be characters, like they have ties into the setting, so other characters will recognize them and react to them accordingly. You're not just going to be like strangers.
Right.
So having those elements there, that serves to provide more incentive for a character to get into the lore of the world because of the character's ties to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So go ahead.
So I was going to say that having the strong lore in the world is so makes the setting do all the heavy lifting.
Right.
And the game master can just focus on the play.
No, the game master has to learn the lore that heavy setting.
Actually, it requires more investment because not only does the game master have to learn the lore, but the players have to learn the lore.
Yeah, and that serves as a freaking... I think he mentions in this video where for his lore-heavy setting, he requires players to read, like, over half a dozen pages of lore. Yeah. It's like, come on, dude. Let's play the game.
Going to the get the treasure.
Running it.
Yes.
And and I don't. The games we've been playing that have been so character driven have been. It's an enriched experience. It's deeper for us. We take responsibility.
and that's good for them. If that's the style that they like to play, that's good for them. But the whole point of the video is to talk about how, like,
video games,
their way is the way, and that all the other ways are basically ruining TTRPGs.
I'm not so sure about that, but I think it's more of this misattribution of when you take a video game and try to make it into an RPG, you're gonna miss out on like heavy lore, and it's like no. It's like saying when you crack an egg and you put it in a fryer, then the volume of your TV is going to turn up to 60. Like these things, there's no correlation between these two events.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For the world, when we're kind of running, not, well, you know what I mean, like running it, you know what I mean?
You are in control of your character, and you have a good understanding of what your character thinks and feels, not because you dropped yourself into it, but because you allowed the world to inform you about your character.
Exactly.
In the Divine Comedy game system that we're playing, it is a weird fantasy world. Very similar to the Warcrow world, there is strange things going on. The elves of this world are strange. The dwarves of this world are strange. In fact, they're not even called elves or dwarves. But you go, hey, that's kind of an elf-like character. And it's a weird character, and so if you are playing as one of those characters, there is a large section of the game that is dedicated to helping the player understand what that kind of character is. And then when you get to the point of picking like a life path, for example, you've decided, I think you wanted to play a pugilist.
Yes.
Okay? And so when you looked at that pugilist section, there was a thing that basically informed you the world is going to think you're scuzzy.
Yes.
Until you're a master fighter.
Until you prove them wrong.
They're gonna see you're a scrappy, nobody, nothing, and
exactly.
And the world will have some disdain for your character based on who you are.
Right.
And who you are will be apparent to people because of like how you dress and what your attire is and all that. So
the older versions of D&D, I think they did this with the titles for character classes at certain levels.
And like Knave has like a sort of like, it's not like explicit, but you get like the impression that like when you're starting out as a character in Knave, you're basically a weirdo. Like everyone looks at you and they're like, look at this weirdo, he robs tombs and he messes with magic.
Yeah, like you're
the two things that I don't like at all.
Loser or some shit.
Yeah, you're just a weirdo. Like you're like
you become annoying, and then you become an asshole, and you're a bastard, and finally you're a proper.
You're a rhythm, and you're a proper knave, and everyone's like, was he a genius the whole time? It's like so like Knave is like the story of how you become Kanye West or whatever. Like,
or T-Pain. Like, no, he actually knows how to sing. You know, just fucking auto-tune, man. All right, onward.
I particularly like that kind of world building because I also know it's the hardest part of designing a TTRPG. And I know it's the hardest part of designing a TTRPG because most TTRPG designers resist doing it. And in TTRPG design, this is the easiest way to do it. You go aesthetic first. You go, cool, weird looking stuff, spider people and cactus people and, you know, amber people, oh my, right? And you leave out all the why that's...
No worries.
He is underestimating the fuck out of aesthetics. Aesthetics is huge when it comes to designing not just TTRPG product, but the setting itself. That's what motivates people to want to play in their world. Is the aesthetic, not fucking pages and pages of textual lore.
Because if they don't like how it looks, they're not gonna even read it. Like,
that's what puts a lot of people off of, especially like with the more old school or conservative types when they critique. Like D&D 5th edition, the art style, or like of Pathfinder.
Yeah, like Goofy.
Yeah, or the woke style, you know?
Well, why are they having so much fun?
Yeah. Or I'm in the middle of a town square where there's this fountain, and I'm this black dude that's getting like regaled by like a gigantic purple demon chick, and and then there's this bard sliding his knees with this fucking lute, and it's like, what is this place, man?
Yeah, what is it?
Like,
Is this like
that's a corny ass aesthetic, and it's also a very pandering aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. And it's just like, and in the past, there would have been drawings of people dungeon crawling.
Yeah.
Trying to like jam a knife into the eye socket of a statue to get the gemstones out.
Yeah, and even though a lot of those, they physically look corny, like with the positions that they're in, because what they do is they'll take a photo of someone that's dressed loosely off of like what they want to draw, and then use the form as the foundation, but then everything else as the inspiration for, like, say, someone like taking a gem out of like this pedestal, and behind the guy, who's like, there's like a fighter, or like some other sellsword, he's on watch.
Right, yeah. Like someone's distracting the ogre, and then someone's stealing the treasure. Like,
yeah, that aesthetic is informing the readers what the game is about.
Yeah.
Whereas when you see fucking black dude getting regaled by big purple demon bitch, like, what is this game about?
Why do you look so happy? Your friend just died. Yeah. Your friend just died in the dungeon. Like, why are you so happy?
Why are you wading into battle with a big ass smile on your face when you're facing a fucking fire giant with a flaming sword?
Yeah. It's just like, and it's just not like for example, even like if you look at a game like Ryutama, like the art style, it fits the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cozy game. The art looks cozy.
Yeah, but ultimately, I'm not really into playing cozy games.
Yeah. It's just, it's for like a specific sort of like
experience.
Yeah.
Okay, onward.
It's happening. You leave out all the formulation of how to play that character, what that character wants, what that character thinks, what the world thinks of that character. Which of these characters hate each other? Do cactus people like spider people? Are they all friends? Why? And it's one of the reasons I find myself so frustrated with TTRPG books. When I look at a TTRPG book and I start scrolling through, I'm like, cool, here's the spot.
Just like a quick point is that all the problems that he pointed out could be solved in like a 5-minute conversation or a minute conversation.
Yeah, and also, I guess,
are spider people and dog people friends? Just yes or no. Or take a D100 and just roll it. Say it's just 50-50.
Yeah, and even if you're not, even if you're not into, I guess, that sort of ad hoc world creation, I mean, like, kind of think about how these animals would react like in the wild.
Right.
Species, they're speciesists.
Right.
And even then, you have interspecies violence and intraspecies violence, and those forms of violence occur for different reasons. There's territoriality, there's survival and reproduction. Like, these are just basic things of biological creatures, so at the very least apply those things.
Yeah. So do the dog people and the cat people get along? Probably not. Except for in certain instances. Maybe they grew up together or they grew around each other.
And there's already archetypes on how dogs behave and cats behave, and you're just transplanting them onto people. And if you're not, then why the hell are they? Why did you need to make dog people and cat people? Or is it just make Homo sapiens? Again, Halloween.
Yeah, just like, let me put on my ears.
Yeah.
Where they're going to explain how the world feels about this thing or that thing. You made this strange world where there's a spire and a heart and stuff, whatever. Now give me more depth. And some of those games do a pretty good job. Some of those games do a really good job, and then, I don't know, like 90% of them, they kind of just go, figure it out.
Well, and then there's a shared, I mean, when people tell...
Not so much figure it out, it's play and find
Yeah,
out.
play and find out. Make decisions. Like you are a DM, you are a GM, you are players. You have, you should have agency about like the type of game that you're playing.
Yeah, and
There's stuff that happens in the game.
And if you're not good with coming up with content on the fly, do prep.
Do prep, or just play the type of game that you want to play.
Yeah.
So like, there's nothing wrong with having preferences. It's just like you have to have like room in your thoughts for like other people and their preferences.
Tell you though that information, and there's a shared understanding at the table, and everyone is actually playing in the same world.
I don't. Yeah. So
instead, it's not up for interpretation.
Sure. And hey, here's the level design. We all.
Actually, the more lore there is about a game, the more open to interpretation it is.
Yeah, because
there's more information to parse through, and people can have different opinions about the same sentence.
Yeah,
and what it means,
depending on, I guess, who wrote the history books.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
All understand the nature of the level. We all understand the world to some degree. And I think it's better for a lot of that stuff to be player facing. Because a lot of these games, they even have like a game master book, which is like a lot of the world building materials or how to run stuff. I like the Divine Comedy system so much because there's a lot of player facing information. You as the player can start scrolling through and go, what's the deal with this race? What's the deal with this class? Whatever.
Yeah.
Why are these things the way that they are? Why does a firebrand work this way? Well, let me go back to the section on the cults and figure out why the cult works this way. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. And
at some point, there has to be a point where someone is just content with, okay, when I flick on the light switch and the lights go on, it's because there's electricity going through.
Yeah.
I don't need to understand like how circuits work in order for that shit to happen.
Right.
Like I can trust.
I'm not a plumber, but I use the toilet.
Yeah, I can trust that those systems are in place, and that they can fuck up, and that there are ways to play them, or that there are ways to correct them.
Right.
I don't need to be an electrician to turn on the lights. I don't need to be a plumber to take a shit, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And because of that, you can now have a player who is just as informed about the lore, the world building, the history as the game master.
Right.
But general world building stuff, I think when it's player facing, it's very helpful to the whole table.
Yes, agreed.
Okay. What are some of the notes you have?
Yeah, video games definitely give you a different mindset than you would going like, so if you're like video games all the time and you have this video gamer mindset, it's not the best mindset to have when you go into playing a TTRPG, I don't think. Again,
why do you think?
Well,
why don't you think it? Go ahead.
So because I feel like we're talking about building characters in TTRPGs and wanting them to be well-rounded and maybe have flaws and characteristics and stuff. And I feel like from watching video games that you guys are playing, I feel like a lot of the character building is based on how strong can I make my character.
But you are right.
No, that's
in that respect, I don't think video game players are wrong to have that mindset when going into certain TTRPGs, because that is how certain TTRPGs are designed.
Yeah.
If you go into
and also it's not so much that it's like something that TTRPGs are copying from video games. Video games originally copied that from TTRPGs.
Yeah,
like when they were making the original Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter or Icewind Dale, they were copying something that already existed.
Yeah, a system. They use the TTRPG system.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
Video games did not create progression systems. Progression systems have always been part of TTRPGs. That's really why the video game genre is called RPG.
And also why a lot of video games, they're accused of having RPG elements when there are things like level up, upgrading
exactly.
weapons or whatever the hell.
Yeah. So
Even though
this is
those things don't make a TTRPG as a TTRPG.
Right.
But I guess for the stuff that she's talking about making a character like more well-rounded as a human being, that there aren't inherently systems in a lot of TTRPGs that that I guess incentivize that's not what the game is mainly about.
Right.
Like those are like either emergent or incidental properties that happen to come about unless there are procedures or mechanics that touch up on that stuff. Like with Cloud Princess, how in order to reinforce its anti-violent themes, that when you do things like you draw a weapon or
you get stressed.
You get stress. And in D&D, in no edition do you get stress whenever you do those mundane actions. At best, you save versus fear, or you make a will save or a wisdom check. Whenever basically a spell calls for it, or at times a monster ability, but not for like more mundane things that would more accurately reflect the real world onto the game world. When you have those systems in place, then players are more incentivized to pay attention to it, because those are things that get managed because they matter for that game in question.
Right.
Damage can my character do? And it's not. So building the character is not based on personality or flaws or
Sure. And that is video game design, because in a video game.
Go ahead.
And I mean, to be honest, I like systems where the character isn't just like combat stats or adventuring stats, but also like take into account the character's personality. But when that doesn't exist, then that's when the player steps in and create the character.
Or they insert themselves.
Or they insert themselves. Whatever is easier. But like lots of people who play 5e are story gamers. Like if you listen to a Crit Crab video about like D&D horror stories, most of those games are more on the story end of the type of games that they're playing. Where people get into the characters, they create characters, they give the character personalities and act that personality out.
Yeah. Especially like the players that want to play the same character regardless of whatever the setting is.
Yeah. So like you can have like so you can have a game that sort of like completely ignores that aspect of a character, and players can still add those things in as needed. Some players don't want to do that stuff. Some players do. So I mean that's all I want to say about that.
Okay.
You don't need to have a 180-degree arc. You don't need to have Phil Connors from Groundhog Day start the story as a total ass and end the story humble and contrite.
Right.
Or even like Tony Stark, same thing. Yeah. What you need to have is be stronger so you can defeat the thing. And the character growth is, I got a bunch of abilities and more hit points and a cool sword, and so now I can defeat the boss.
Right.
That's due to the game design.
Yeah.
You're right. It's empty character.
And also, like I don't think it's like I don't think a TTRPG character needs to have a narrative arc.
No.
I mean, if you're into that, that's fine. That's fine. And you find other players that want to do the same thing. That's great. That's great. But not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone wants to play a story. If I wanted to experience a story, I'd read a novel. You know, I would go on Spotify, I would buy an audiobook, I would play it in my ear while I'm working. And I would experience a story that way. And guess what? Michael Moorcock or Brandon Sanderson would do it way better than I would. At a TTRPG player where I'm also balancing the fact that I'm with other people who have their own ideas and their own way of engaging with narratives.
Well, speaking of games that do deal heavily with character arcs, let me go for it. This is probably the best game for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because like each playbook is focused on a character arc. Basically, that each playbook has two fundamental forces that are at odds with each other, and in the middle there's balance. And there are procedures and mechanics in the game that can tilt the character towards one or another aspect, and then those bonuses or the bonus or penalties that they've received from them would affect like other mechanics. And then like once they go like completely out of balance onto like one side or another, that's like a defining point in like their character's arc. Or, you know, they find a way to manage like that kind of struggle and like achieve balance. And all these things play into the advancement system as well. Like when you achieve balance, then you unlock like even better moves for your character. I don't recall exactly like all the details, but yeah, if you want to play like a character arc centric game, then I would highly recommend Avatar Legends.
Yeah. I mean that's basically my main problem with the video is that like you can do the thing that you want to do, but you can do it while not poo-pooing other types of play or other types of game.
Yeah, I mean, the whole poo-pooing thing doesn't bother me so much. It's more I guess the trying to find the right word. Like it just seemed you confused about what the points that they're trying to make.
Right. Yeah.
All right, moving onward.
Yeah.
Exactly. Another thing I have noticed is that, well, when we talked about this in previous videos, is that video games are just constant stimulation all the time.
Depends on the game.
So when you're constantly stimulated and then you go into doing a TTRPG where there are quiet moments, there are moments of listening, there are moments of other people talking, you kind of check out a little bit, I think. So the attention span, I think, is just a lot shorter when it comes to playing an RPG than it would be with a video game where you're just entertained 100% of the time. I even see like when the talking, y'all skip through the talking a lot of the time. Let's get to the
we're
action.
playing a roguelite game. I'm here for the mechanics.
I understand.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I understand. Well,
That's kind of hypocritical of him. Talking all this shit about wanting the story, but then when the dialogue comes on,
he deletes it. He skips it. I'm just here for the mechanics. Well, some people who play TTRPGs are just here for the mechanics.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily, they're not trying to tell a story. You know, this isn't the next anime epic or like the next fantasy epic.
Yeah,
like we're not trying to create the record of Lodos or whatever.
Yeah, those are the pseudo board game players.
Yeah. And also, I'm trying to remember. Also, I don't think it's just universal about video games. Like not every video game is constantly stimulating you. And also, even if that was the case, then you need to look at your players and then try to figure out ways to get them involved. Whether that means having a rules light system that lets them make more decisions at a faster rate. Because like a common complaint that people have is that like in 5e they're like whoa, the players keep tuning out. And it's like, well, yeah, dude, a combat turn takes 20 minutes. And when it's finally their turn, in 60 seconds, they're back to doing nothing.
And shit, I've even seen shorts, YouTube shorts, where someone's playing Baldur's Gate 3. They do all their characters take their turns, and they're fighting like over a dozen monsters.
Yeah.
And they get up from their couch and they do some shit in the kitchen, and then like it's edited, obviously. But the point is that there's a long stretch of time before they get to act again, and that's because that's how 5e is designed.
Yeah. I remember when we went to go play that store and we played Pathfinder, and it was just like not everyone's going to be able to sit there for 20, 30 minutes waiting for their turn. Eventually, they're going to want to do something else.
I mean, at the very least, with Pathfinder, you know that everyone has 3 actions, and you're not trying to guess, or the whole are you going to use your bonus action or not is like into question.
Yeah. I mean, that's something to help that the pre-generated characters are bad. When it would come to my turn, literally the only thing I could do was shoot my gun. Because I picked the gunslinger. And so like, I think we were level 4.
And you were still only able to do one thing?
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah, that's the continuation. That's the continuation of that 3rd edition style design.
Yeah. It's just like I'll hear stories about where guys are like, I had 7 players at my table and people constantly go to the bathroom. Like, what would you expect? It takes 30 minutes for it to get around to their turn. He's like, well, some people continue to pay attention the whole time. He's like, well, that's them.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone is going to be just there like bored out of their mind, but still focused.
Yeah, they're also like in those games. There aren't nearly as many procedures or mechanics that have the players do stuff not in their turn. Whereas with like Nimble, which is it started off as like house rules for 5e, but then developed into its own thing. It also has a 3 action economy. But once you spend all your actions, at the end of your turn, you refresh all those actions, and then there's stuff you can do out of turn. But you can't do like there's 4 actions you can do out of turn, but you can only do one of those actions like once until your next turn. Whether it's helping someone out, defending, or whatever the hell. So even there, you're still making tactical decisions when it's not your turn.
Right.
Because you can choose to either like save yourself or help out other characters out of turn, but then when it's your turn again, because you've used up some action points that you refresh at the end of turn, you're not doing so much on your turn.
Right. Yeah.
And those are aspects of skirmish combat that I find interesting.
Right. Or even if like just like everyone does their actions on their turn, and there's not much out of turn action. If the rules are light, then people can stay focused because they know that their turn is just right on the corner. Like a D&D turn might take 15-20 minutes, whereas in Knave, that might be the whole fight.
Also, another thing on Nimble's combat is that monsters they don't go by the same rules as players. So, like a monster they'll be able to move and do an action.
Right.
And that's it. And their stat blocks are generally very small. But then when you're fighting boss monsters, each boss monster goes after every player turn. So this feels significantly different and significantly more formidable than a regular throwaway monster.
It's just also like for example, like quick and dirty. You're not doing much out of turn, but like the system is simple enough that and it's based on it's based on narrative flavor that you kind of have to pay attention to be involved in creating the scene.
Yeah, because there's no distinct combat minigame in
Right. Yeah, you're describing the actions your character is taking or in response to the enemy in a narrative way. And that determines the approach that you're taking that determines what dice you're rolling.
Yeah.
So yeah. I had to get the plug in there.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Onward.
I also feel like video games shrink that imagination muscle, I guess is how I would call it. TTRPGs can give you terrain and minis and props, but you still need to use your imagination, even with all that stuff.
You use your imagination to figure out the questions about the world.
No, my objection to that is that those things serve as crutches. And especially when you're playing with minis, when you're playing with minis, your visual attention is on the minis and on the terrain, and I think that necessarily detracts from the attention you'd be putting into how a scene looks or how your character looks. Even if you do manage to have an idea of what your character looks like in your head, as opposed to the mini, there's still two things vying for your attention or for your cognitive resources.
Right.
And realistically, bro, you put minis down, necks go down and eyes look downward, not shit in your head and talking things out with the players or the game master to figure out how to solve this problem.
Oh, yeah.
So my objection is more experiential than anything.
Yeah.
While you're playing TTRPGs, and I feel like video games just give it all to you, right? They're just there on the screen.
Sure.
And there's also I also noticed in video games a lot of chances to redo.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of
Let me try again.
Reloads and stuff.
Yeah.
So in our games, I feel like sometimes there's oh, can I roll the dice again? Can I just tell them
no, move on.
Yeah.
A lot of
Right.
Yeah, that or I guess that leads into the other topic we talked about beforehand on players not wanting to die, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because in a video game, if you die, you get to continue.
Start again, right?
Yeah. But yeah, on that, if you wanted to get that feeling, with Baldur's Gate 3, for example, there's the option, and other RPGs, especially CRPGs, they have the option for hardcore mode or single save file, where it's just the game auto saving over that one save file. So whatever happens, in the narrative or with the character, what's done is done, and you just keep on moving forward. Or in the hardcore mode, once you're dead, that's it. That's the end of your character.
Yeah.
That's their story.
Yeah. Can we pause for a second?
Okay. Let me see. Not sure how to pause there, but yeah. For the sake of the viewers, you can skip ahead, until we get back. So just let me know when we get back.
Give me a second.
Hello.
Let me actually muting. Okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm recording this as OBS, so I see there's a start recording, stop recording, but no pause recording. Yeah, I don't want to really fiddle around with anything here and inadvertently stop the video. But so far, I'm enjoying this critique.
It's time. Roll for initiative.
All right, you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Right.
You know, people
Or
don't
I did
accept
this.
the original.
I did this thing. I changed my mind.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So, and I'm not saying that's bad. I mean, it's up to the game master and the table, of course, if you want to give them another chance, you know, whatever. But I feel like there could be a lot of that going on. And also, video games. I don't know that unless I'm sure there are some video games that you played a lot of video games, so you can tell me if this is wrong. But I feel like a lot of the NPCs in video games are just for information purposes only. That is the only level that the only job that they have. They're not treated like they have actual emotions, like their opinions can change, like they're not real people.
Whereas there are some games who've done it better.
Okay.
So there's some games that have done that. But I know what you're talking about. This NPC is basically just a signpost that you can, or a message board where you can just read through a bunch of text. Yeah.
Tell me info.
Sure.
Whereas in TTRPG world, these characters can be fleshed out and have opinions and maybe become part of your team. Like there's possibility of that.
I don't think that's a fair critique to make of video games. It's like saying, "Damn, video games, they're like video games. They do video game things."
Yeah, it's just like, and I mean like in older games, like that the NPC, that when people call other people bots or whatever, or like they call them NPCs, they mean that basically they just say the same thing again and again. The reason why they would do that is because that's like a way not only to give like players like tutorial information, like press A to jump, but also to like deliver information about the world or clues about what to do next.
Yeah, like her critique is that video game NPCs don't behave like real people, but that's just necessarily the nature of the limited nature of video games.
Yeah, I mean, and also like TTRPGs have their own limits. Like TTRPG NPCs aren't actual people. They're limited by like the knowledge of like the person playing the NPC and whatever like they decide.
Well, they're limited by the game master.
Yeah, right. So they have it's not like you created an actual human being to interact with the players.
Right.
It's just another conversation between the players and the GM.
Mm-hmm. But potentially, the NPC can be as in depth as you want them to be, or as you're able to make them.
Right. So like sometimes the TTRPG NPC isn't like a human. It is basically just there to give you some sort of information.
Yeah.
Or to sell you some items.
Yeah, it's all dependent.
Or to crack a joke.
It's all dependent on game master capability.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Like
I know
how
where
in video games it depends on like the writer's ability. You know, some NPCs are very rich in terms of like the
But those
some aren't.
but the critique that she's making is not about the depth, but um, like how they're scripted basically. Video game NPCs are scripted, even if they have very elaborate scripts. You know, there is a way so that you can reach the finality of their script tree,
Right.
even if it blocks off other branches. But with a
Right.
but with an RPG NPC, they don't have script trees.
Yeah, they don't have script trees, but basically how you respond to the NPC will determine how the NPC reacts to you,
Mm-hmm.
which is the same thing that happens in video games. Like in a video game, if you have a dialogue tree and one of the dialogue tree has you like slap the NPC, then obviously everything after that is going to revolve around the fact that you just slapped this dude.
Right, but that option is not going to be available for every NPC in a
Right?
video game.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. TTRPGs have more. There's more room to interact. There's more options.
There were older video games like Shadowrun for the SNES, Final Fantasy II for the NES, and I believe the older Ultima games, where when you interact with an NPC, it gives you a bunch of and also Elder Scrolls 3 Oblivion, no, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, where you just have like a long list of topics that you can use on every NPC, and like you just go through them, and certain NPCs will react to those topics, others won't. But like that kind of interaction, like it wasn't very entertaining after a while.
Right. Yeah.
Was a company that did pretty good stuff with NPCs. There's other games as well. You know, you guys can post examples in the comments or whatever, but there's at least enough video games that do real character development and growth that's why I started the video saying everything is copying video games now, because video games do movies better than movies now. And that's kind of why movies are going, let's make our a movie like a video game, right?
Yeah, or a movie about a video game.
Or a movie about a video game. Right? Let's try and mix the two. Yeah, right.
Right.
And you end up getting movies where it's like, why does this character have no growth, right?
I disagree with this point there. That's not why movies are. I don't think movies are being made more like video games.
Yeah.
And the
do
ones
they even
that
give
are,
an example?
I don't know. I don't think so. But even
because
go ahead.
Because like even if you look at like a movie like Minecraft, the Minecraft movie, it's like only vaguely about Minecraft. It's not exactly about the game. It's sort of like it's just a family film based in that sort of world. So I don't know. Well,
like if there's any movie that's made,
it's still very much a movie,
right? But if there's any movie that's made quote unquote like a video game, I think Netflix had like a couple of movies where at certain points of the movie, the audience or like the viewer can decide in what direction the plot goes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I think one of them touted of having like 37 like different possible like iterations of the movie itself. So in a sense, it kind of feels like a very rudimentary Telltale game.
Right.
But yeah, that shit is not popular. That's as popular as like VR games.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's also a lot of combat first thinking in video games.
Right, let's defeat these guys.
Let's physically, and instead of going into some kind of maybe going in and defeating this enemy with your wits or by deception or by negotiation, that kind of thing, like going about other ways than just physical violence.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's what the OSR is all about, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't like those games. So.
He has expressed liking Dragonbane, and that's kind of OSR-ish, I would think.
Yeah. But I think he's about to talk crap about Shadow Dark or something.
Yeah. Oh, also, let's say there's like 10 more minutes, because we've been at it for like close to 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a viewing of the Lord of the Rings.
Though in this age of like Call of Duty video games, that mindset approach to a tabletop RPG either leads a party towards murder hobodom,
Right.
or like just kind of an empty world where it's like we're trying to kill everything in this world. Yeah.
Right.
Give us a
exactly.
dungeon with monsters to fight.
Right.
Set us up with dangerous things we can try and kill.
Another point that, and I've noticed this in our games right now, is that there's a lot of what I like to call reward dependency
What do you
in
mean?
video games. So oftentimes I've noticed when you complete a level or a child, you really get loot, you get treasure, you get XP.
Oh, in a video game, yes.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
In our sessions, I've noticed a lot of the younger players.
Okay, then.
They got that from D&D.
Yeah.
And fuck.
Yeah, it's literally like how they were talking about before about progression systems. It's like, no, that's a thing that came from TTRPGs, went to video games.
No, but this is different, though.
Yeah.
You're talking about that in video games, players get rewarded, at the end of...
In TTRPGs, people get rewarded too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the end goal of, what you call it, of, like, old school D&D and OSR type games.
Yeah, gold for XP. Like, you get acquire treasure.
XP makes you stronger. And also the loot that you get, like magical loot, makes you more capable. So you can go like deeper into dungeons or go to more dangerous dungeons, and then on and on until you go beyond dungeon play.
Yeah, you acquire what's called you acquire like magic items that basically act as additional abilities that your character has, or within dungeons you can find scrolls or wands, which almost act like how in Numenera how the ciphers work.
Yeah,
where you have like a,
or better said, that ciphers in Numenera worked like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Yeah, like that was just them like revamping.
Yeah.
Or Monty Cook's way of doing
revamping that sort of
Yeah. Really more so of getting the players accustomed to using magic items rather than hoarding them.
Right.
But that also like mixed up gameplay. Yeah, you have like these temporary abilities or capabilities, but you're gonna get new ones. But in order for you to get new ones, you need to make those cipher slots available.
And that's like what kind of like alleviated like magic users, since they had so few spells that they can use. And in certain OSR games, like each spell is paired with like there's a grimoire that casts this one spell. So you have to have like a certain amount of grimoires to have a certain amount of spells. And so like if you were so when you ran out of spells, well, you're the only one that can use the spell scroll. You're the only one that can use the wand. So it made well, if we explore this dungeon and we find the spell scroll, then now we can basically unlock our magic user.
And that's also one of the things that made the 3rd edition Rogue special was that one of their class skills was use magic device. So that they can use scrolls and other magic devices that are normally only under the purview of spellcasters.
Right.
Like that made them more versatile.
Yeah, made them like gadgeteers, not just like of mundane items, but also magical ones.
Players being like, so how much XP do I get if I do this? Or how much XP is this worth? Or can I get XP if I do this? can I get a little extra XP? So it's it's reward driven a lot of the time.
It's more a power gamer mindset. Like, I know what you mean. It's the same thing that drives Bishop to try and make a perfect Magic the Gathering deck or a perfect war game band. It's a little bit video game mentality.
Those aren't the same thing. His reference to Bishop making a Magic the Gathering deck, that's the character build stuff.
The game. Yeah.
Whereas she's talking about an incentive structure.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like,
and also,
that
like, I mean,
thing
the
is
incentive
not
structure. The incentive structure in Magic the Gathering is to build
Buy
a good
more
deck.
decks.
Yeah, to buy more decks, but also to build a good deck so that you can win the tournament. You can go to Friday Night Magic and win. But yeah,
necessarily bad. That aspect of video games is the build up a thing, right? Build up an empire, build up a city, build up a business, build up a character. That thing in video games is actually satiating a natural desire that creative people have, and creative people have a desire. Well, no, the reward is almost a secondary thing. In this case, it's I want to build.
I think it's more the desire of a competitive person rather than a creative person. Just want to be the best.
Yeah.
You the best. DJ Khaled.
We the best. Another one.
Build something, and I need the tools to do it. In this case, it happens to be experience or whatever. In the case of video games, it happens to be whatever, the loot or something that you get. I don't have as much a problem with that. I want to build up a thing. But I do know what you mean that there is an aspect of tabletop RPGs that is intrinsically interesting because it's story driven. And in some way we're going, hey, let's drop all the mechanics out of the game as much as possible and focus on the story. And there are sessions we have now in the Divine Comedy where people just don't even pull out their dice for the whole night. Not the whole night, but like a couple hours or something like that. And it's like, because the story took over.
I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. I mean, oftentimes, as when we played in your Knave game, doing the overland travel and rolling up the events, change of weather, random encounters, foraging for food, like there was narrative that emerged from all of that by engaging in the procedures.
Right.
And without those procedures, and you can still do all that other stuff, but it would be like more loosey-goosey and up to the GM of what the next scene would be.
Like, as opposed to the players get to decide what the story is by making decisions as their characters. Like, if you guys had decided just to stay in the forest, then it would have been a woodland adventure.
Right, but we were traveling to another place. We were traveling to Wizard's Tower from the central hub. But, because that procedure was in play, or because it was part of the game, like, those things emerge. Whereas, if you wanted to have a quote-unquote more story-focused game, you could have done, okay, we decide to leave the town, and then next scene, we go to the tower. And if anything, like if we wanted to incorporate like any travel coincidentals, then we do like some sort of journey roll or survival check, and then depending on the result we rolled, okay, we used X resources, or we took X amount of damage, or whatever, just to show, that happened, and now we move on to like this other scene. Like that kind of game would have played more like a show or a movie, as opposed to actually going through the trek.
Yeah, being in an expedition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, like, I mean, there's ways to, like, tie in story into those, like, sort of random roles. Like, in the beginning of that campaign, you guys were going through like a trader's road that leads to the city. And so and the what's it called, the random encounter generator had a lot of like bandits.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a story out of the fact that you guys kept on rolling for these bandit monsters. So
Yeah, the rules
I created
inspired,
right.
I guess, like reasoning behind
Yeah.
why we were getting these encounters.
Right. So instead of having you guys get attacked by just random bandits, well, it was a bandit family. And then when you defeated the one bandit, his cousin came and was like, "You defeated my brother," like, or "You defeated my cousin." And then
Durango
like
James.
my Durango James, so you basically had like the James gang or whatever, and by the time you guys get to the end of the road or whatever, like you guys basically resolve that narrative by defeating the last of the James brothers or whatever.
All right. So yeah, we've hit the 3-hour mark.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me for this reaction video, Brian. If you want to do this again at some point, let me know.
No, for sure.
For any viewers, hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments, please remember to keep them respectful and relevant. And other than that, take care and play.
Play.
To
find out what happens. We'll get better at that.
Okay. Take care, man.
Yeah, take care.